Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We're ditching the research papers and news articles and diving into something you might not expect, a YouTube video transcript. But not just any transcript. This one's packed with advice on navigating tough times. And get this, it's originally in Spanish, so picture this. You're scrolling through YouTube and stumble across this passionate speaker sharing their wisdom, and it's all in Spanish. That's the kind of unique source material we're dealing with today. Now, this isn't your typical self-help video. It's really rooted in biblical principles, specifically teachings from Jesus.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the speaker weaves together practical advice with spiritual inspiration. It's not just about what to do, but why, all grounded in this idea of love as a driving force.
Right. And they keep coming back to this one phrase, Amémonos los unos a los otros, como Jesús nos enseñó, meaning love one another as Jesus taught us. Now, for anyone who isn't super familiar with Christianity, that might seem like a pretty simple message. But I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. In Christianity, loving one another isn't just about warm, fuzzy feelings. It's a call to action. It's about actively caring for others, showing compassion, forgiveness, putting their needs before your own, that sort of thing.
So it's like radical empathy in action, which really makes you think, in a world that feels so divided, could this message be even more important?
Absolutely. And the video actually addresses this directly. It talks about the tiempos de incertidumbre, desafíos, the times of uncertainty and challenges that we're all facing.
It's like the speaker understands exactly what we're going through. But they don't just leave us hanging with these challenges. The video's full of practical advice for dealing with them. One that really stood out to me was, perdonar hasta 70 veces.
Forgive up to 70 times.
What a powerful idea.
It is. It's about letting go of resentment. Embracing forgiveness.
Yeah, because holding on to anger only hurts you in the end.
Exactly. And the video really emphasizes choosing a different path, releasing that burden of anger and bitterness, forgiving not even for the other person, but for yourself.
It's true, forgiveness, especially when you've been really hurt, it's not easy.
No, it's a process for sure, often a really difficult one. But this video suggests that real freedom comes from letting go of the past.
It's like breaking free from that cycle of anger and resentment. And the video doesn't stop at forgiveness. It also emphasizes something else that's really difficult. Focusing on personal growth instead of trying to change other people.
Yeah, taking ownership, right. It's about focusing on your own actions, your own growth, instead of getting caught up in wanting others to change.
Which is so easy to do. We spend so much energy trying to force people to be who we want them to be, instead of just, working on ourselves.
Exactly. It's a recipe for frustration. This video really challenges us to shift that perspective. Instead of saying, if only they would, it's about asking, what can I control? How can I be the best version of myself?
It's like they say, be the change you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of change, the video talks about another tool for having a more positive outlook, gratitude.
Gratitude is huge. It can really change everything. It's about training your mind to focus on the good, even when things are tough.
It's about building up that inner strength.
Yes.
Exactly. And that idea of finding strength, especially through faith, is a big part of this video too. The speaker encourages listeners to escuchar su voz, to listen to God's voice. And they talk about how todo lo que viene de Dios obra para nuestro bien. Everything that comes from God works for our good. That's quite a statement, especially when you're dealing with difficult times. Now, for someone who isn't religious, how might this message of finding strength in something bigger than themselves resonate?
It's interesting, right? That idea of finding strength in something bigger than yourself. It's a pretty universal human experience, even for someone who isn't religious, That feeling of trusting in something beyond yourself, a guiding force, or just some kind of support, it can be really powerful.
Like surrendering control, kind of. Saying, okay, maybe I don't have all the answers, but something else does.
Exactly. And I think this video captures that really well, that we're not alone in our struggles, that even when things are dark, there's a guiding light, a higher power. But it goes beyond just that belief. It ties it to action, too.
So how do you actually live that out? It's one thing to believe it, but putting it into practice is different.
Right. And the video says, uno de sus mandamientos y el más importante dice amaos los unos a los otros. One of his commandments, and the most important, is to love one another. It's about taking that faith and making it real, living it out through love and compassion in everything you do.
So it's not enough to just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Exactly. It all comes back to love as an action, the choices we make every day, choosing kindness instead of judgment, forgiveness over resentment, being generous instead of selfish. It's about being the change you want to see.
Okay, but how do you actually do that?
Yeah.
Especially when life gets tough. It's easy to say, but putting it into practice is hard.
You're right. It's not always easy. It's something you have to work at, a conscious effort. Remember that saying, treat others how you want to be treated. It's like that. Even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect. It's about recognizing that we all share this human experience.
Sometimes it's easy to forget that everyone else is fighting their own battles too. We get so caught up in our own little bubbles.
Absolutely. And sometimes a little compassion can make all the difference. And this video, it's not just about changing yourself. It's also about how your actions impact the world around you. The speaker talks about acting with love as being bajo la luz de nuestro creador, under the light of our creator.
So by choosing love, we're not just making ourselves better, we're contributing to a better world too.
That's the idea. We're all connected, and even our smallest actions can have an impact. It's a call to be a force for good, to actually live out the change we want to see.
So to kind of sum up this whole YouTube deep dive, it seems like the main message is about love, forgiveness, and finding strength when things are hard. But it goes beyond that, right?
Yeah.
It's also about taking action.
Yes, exactly. It's about taking these ideas and making them real in our everyday lives. Asking yourself, how can I be better? Not just for me, but for everyone around me.
It's a powerful message for sure, and one that feels super relevant, especially these days. We started with this random YouTube video, and look where we ended up.
It's wild, right?
We started with the YouTube video and somehow ended up talking about some pretty deep stuff.
I know, right? It just goes to show you that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places. That video is so simple, but it really tapped into something we all crave. That connection, that search for meaning, especially when times are tough.
And it didn't just leave us there with those big questions. It ended with a call to action.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we all have the power to make a difference. And it doesn't have to be some big, grand gesture. It's about those small, everyday acts of love and forgiveness.
So it's not about being a superhero. It's more about just showing up differently.
Exactly. Imagine if everyone actually lived by those values, just in those small, everyday interactions. Smiling at a stranger, really listening to a friend, choosing patience over frustration. Those little things add up.
It's like they say, be the change you want to see.
Exactly. And that's a big takeaway from all of this. We don't need to wait for some perfect moment to make a difference. We have that power right now, every single day.
It makes you think, how can I actually do that? How can I be that positive force in the world?
Exactly.
Well, that's all we have for today's deep dive. But as you go about your day, keep thinking about this message. How can you live it out? How can you make the world a little brighter, even in a small way? That's something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.